Right. So welcome to another episode of the podcast. And yeah, so it is going to be a fun one. I invited a good friend, one of my good friends, along to share her thoughts. Her name is Gigi Tibi, and she is the CEO of Rad Manila. It is an advertising agency, a big advertising agency, working with big name clients, which we talk about then. And in this episode, she shares with us her journey, no? Her journey of being able to get to where she is now. And really, one of the key things that I wanted to highlight in this particular episode was when she shared. Hindi siya na-highlight looking back. No? Hindi siya na-highlight, but it was something really powerful. And it is where our power is now as people, as individuals. She mentions, we talk about in this episode, where our powers lie. No, it doesn't lie, with circumstances around us, because we don't control them. But we actually talk about how do you claim that power. Excuse me. How do we claim that power? So we talk about that. So I hope you catch that in the episode here. No? So again, if you're enjoying these, please make sure you subscribe. Please, if you're enjoying this very much, and if these are helpful, please do let us know by writing a review. This would be helpful in terms of reaching more people, especially baka merong mga they need to hear some of the messages in this podcast. So writing a review can help reach them. And yeah, like our page and join our group, Dream Nation PH. So without further ado, here's the episode. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us for another episode of the Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host Julian, and I'm very excited for our episode today. So getting straight to it, I know a lot of people listening to this podcast is in the entrepreneurship space, or if hindi pa, wanting to get there. Wanting to be able to start your own business, be your own boss, and really create something that makes an impact not only to you and your family, but maybe in the people around you, and why not the world, diba? And I'm very excited for this guest of ours because she's a very, very, very dear friend of mine. And she is the CEO and she owns Rad Manila, which is an advertising agency who serves clients such as, pwede ba sabihin? Oh,
Pwede naman.
okay. Nakada. So clients such as Chupa Chups, di ba nasa listahan natin, Mentos, Oishi, and even Uniqlo, my favorite brand. No? So without further ado, I'd like to welcome again my very, very dear friend. Been very close with her in the past few months. So thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Gigi Tibi. Yay!
Yay!
Thank
Hello,
you, buddy. Thank you,
everyone. Of
Gigi.
course, happy to serve. So,
Thank you. All right. So I wanted to bring you on really to share your story. Yeah, I know a bit about it and something that inspired me. So I know it'll inspire a lot of people then. But before we get to that, now, could you let our audience know more about who you are and what you do?
all right. So my work is basically advertising and digital. The name of the company is Rad Manila. It's a 7-year-old Filipino independent marketing communications agency. So we handle some of the biggest and most respected Filipino and multinational brands in the country today. We basically do advertising, design, digital, and we're quite passionate about strategy. So I started my career in Saatchi and Saatchi, where I learned branding basically. For I handled Procter and Gamble. So as we all know, Procter and Gamble invented the concept of brand management. So I handled it for around 5 years. So brands like Ivory, buhay pa yung Ivory dati, Olay, Mr. Clean, may Mr. Clean pa dati, Old Spice, High Endurance, P&G Corporate, etc., etc. And then after that, I moved on to handle PLDT. So parang yung medyo tech side, mas enterprising. So if P&G is very organized, parang ma-structure, ma-architecture, PLDT on the other hand was more enterprising. So ganon. So that was 7 years. And then I was invited to join Golden ABC, the company that handles or creates brands like Pen Shop, Oxygen, Memo, For Me, mga ganyan. So I was 27. I forgot. Hindi ko alam kung ilang taon na ako during that time. But I remember feeling very, very not capable of doing the job kasi the title was like marketing communications manager. And what do I know about marketing communications? Ang alam ko, advertising lang, di ba?
Mm.
So at first, I was like faking it, dressing the part, parang I was trying to look at people and observe. Medyo ma-observe kasi ako, and I was trying to see how people were doing things, and I would try to copy, yung ganon. So I would try to act older than my age, yung mga ganyan-ganyan.
Mhm.
Until such time na I learned na, okay, it's good to be myself. So, parang yun. So, naging ako lang. And then, I got promoted several times, handled total marketing. And in the end, I was brand general manager. So, I handled um, everything, all the
Mhm.
departments. And I'm very grateful because it was really the break that launched my career. Kasi I remember during that time, I would get invited to talk to, say, Philippine Retailers Association, ang mga attendees, yung tipong all the mall owners, all the brands, all the retailers in the Philippines. And I was talking about how Pen Shop was the first fashion retail brand to launch in China. Yung ganon. So,
Mhm.
so medyo ano yun, parang for me, it was the launching pad of my career. And I also learned so much about handling numbers, financials, kasi nga the owner is a Filipino-Chinese entrepreneur, si Bernie, who I consider to be one of my best mentors.
Nice.
So I stayed with them for, I think, around 6-7 years. And then I was invited to join then Creative Juice Manila, which is a multinational advertising agency, which was part of TBWA Omnicom. And then, but the thing is, Julian, I've always been very independent. So
Mhm.
at some point, I knew that I wanted to do it on my own. Na tipong ayoko nang mag-report sa regional offices. I just wanted to be able to do my own discarte. So when the opportunity came, I bought na the company and named it
Nice.
Rad Manila. So it's been 7 years.
Wow.
7 years. Yeah. Ha ha ha.
Yay! And we're here now. No? So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for sharing that journey. Now, if I can ask a few questions about that particular journey lang, no? What particular did, if any, what particular struggles did you feel that you had to overcome? No, especially particularly the biggest ones, especially getting all the successes you've gotten, no? To be promoted to eventually general manager, and then to actually own the company, and now running it for 7 years now. What big obstacles really almost stopped you from getting to where you are now?
Hmm. Um, Siguro, I want to start with what worked for me
Sige, go ahead.
first. What worked for me really was always saying yes.
Okay.
Yung, I would always feel fear, no? I mean, part naman siya of being human. But every time there is an opportunity, I always say yes. Alam mo ba to, Gigi? Yes, kahit hindi ko alam.
Okay.
Kaya mo ba to? And I would say yes. So go lang ako ng go. And I realized na as I keep saying yes, parang mas nag-expand ako, tas mas gumagaling ako. And I realized yung limitations that we set for ourselves really are self-imposed. So, sabi ko, oh my God, ang galing naman. Because syempre, I would say yes, pero I would be responsible. Pag-aaralan
Mm.
ko talaga, hindi
Yeah.
ako matutulog. Gagawin ko yan na super excellent, na yung ganyan. Tapos I would be so happy because I said yes. And I did it despite the fear. No? So that was like my strategy for the longest time. Go nang go, yes nang yes. So while there was fear, I was also fearless kasi ginawa ko siya despite the fear. So parang ano yun
Mm.
fear plus action, di ba? Fearlessness. So feeling ko yan ang equity ko until now. Yung tipong go lang ng go. And it was also the same thing that got me into trouble, of course, di ba? Kasi double-edged sword ang fearlessness, di ba?
Mm.
Also makes you very very bold naman. So meron din akong decision na tipong, oh my God, I was like so optimistic, and in the end hindi rin pala nag-work. It has something to do with the numbers of my company when we were first starting. So binili ko na siya, di ba? So parang
Mm.
at first masyado akong bold, o sige ganito ganito, and in the end hindi siya na-sustain. So that really got me into trouble, na which I considered to be the lowest point of my professional life, kasi all of a sudden I was having trouble financially because I was so bold. And at that point, I said, shucks, Gigi, kasi yan yabang-yabang mo kasi. Laks, ayan, go ka nang go. Maybe, parang you're biting more than you can chew, ganyan, sobrang arrogant. So I was blaming myself for like mga 2 months. And then after that, napagod ako, nag-shift na ako. And I said, okay, what am I learning here? What have I learned? So that was also the most important point in my professional life. Kasi at that lowest, I learned so much also. So So, ganon. So, now, ang tingin ko sa obstacles, ano yan, opportunity to learn.
Mm.
There's always an opportunity to learn. And failure is as much as, it's like an event, like success, no? Parang
Yeah.
nothing naman is permanent, eh. One day you succeed, the next day you fail. And it doesn't really matter as long as you keep learning. And, ba, medyo ego lang naman yung kailangan i-manage. Of course, that much as life coaches, we know now, no?
Mm-mm.
So there, it's really that. Always saying yes, being fearless was what worked for me. Yeah.
Nice. Right. So in the podcast, we talk about so I share a lot about how our self-talk and our identity um, really creates the results that we have sa life na. As we know, di ba, yung we do have
Mhm.
our identity shapes our habits, and our habits are what creates our results. So for you in particular, maybe when you were getting started or even now, no, what do you think, what type of identity did you think allowed you to be this person na yes, yes, yes? What was your self-talk? What was your self-talk that really got you, or that has been working for you?
I was the eldest of 4 children and very close ako sa father ko. And I remember my father would used to tell me, or at least in yung interpretation ko growing up, he would tell me na I can be whatever I want to be.
Nice.
So sineryoso ko yan. So in my mind, feel ko na really I can be whoever I want to be. And then I went pa to UP. So syempre medyo
Yeah.
yung training dyan, di ba? Tipong creme ala creme, no? Totoo man o hindi. Pero feel ko yung ganong identity. But when I graduated, I realized, oh my God, ano pala yun? Ibang mundo pala yung college. Ibang mundo yung professional. And
Mm.
so yun na yung tipong that's where I also learned how to, hard work, really to commit, to be very responsible. So yun. First is believing that I can be whoever I want to be, and but you have to couple it with action and really commitment to do it, no matter how inconvenient and difficult it may be already. So, yun. Yun. Pero alam mo, ang ganda nga ng question mo kanina, nung nagluluto ako, haha, syempre part yan ng aking having some sense of normalcy sa mga panahon ito. Ang galing lang because I was thinking of identity. Exactly that point you raised. Ang galing, synchronicity. So I
Mm.
was thinking, ano ba yung identity ko? And I realized, parang wala naman talaga akong identity. Parang it's really more of a child of God. And I'm not
Mm.
being religious when I say it, but really
Yeah.
child of the universe, no? And a very brave student of life, I guess. Yung to just really keep learning kasi there's just so much to learn.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much
Yes.
to learn. Yeah. Yeah, yun. Ganon.
Yeah.
Pero that's all. Parang for me, all the labels naman are external, diba?
Mm-mm.
Parang, and they don't really matter. I think that's what gets us into trouble when we feel when we get too attached to the labels because
Yes.
hashtag successful. I think that's where troubles really begin. Eh. So for me, sige, go lang ng go, diba? One day at a time, learn what I can, but always being responsible. Always.
Yes. Yes, I agree. No, na parang yes, in that idea of yes, we are limitless, we can do anything, but that should also be coupled with responsibility, diba? Actually doing yung anything or what we set out to. So if I were to rewind that lang, I admired how what you said na your dad was even from a young age was telling you that um you can do anything, you can be anyone. Um, Unfortunately now, as far as some of the people I've gotten a chance to speak with, even before, baligtad yung experience
Mm-hmm.
nila na parang they're the type of people na growing up, what they heard naman was that um, unfortunately, parang we don't have that kind of money, mahirap tayo, and that's what sunk in, naging self-reality, and yun nagiging reality now. And it's becoming, I've spoken with some people and sinasabi na nahihirapan sila to get out of that self-talk, no? Or like you're saying, in that label. For these type of people, what would you recommend for them? Or what would you advise them? Na parang, that, yeah, like as we know, these are all beliefs, no? Na that you're limited or that you're limitless. No? So what advice can you give people to help make that shift?
Well, my childhood was not perfect. I mean, don't get me
Mm.
wrong.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
also had its own sets of challenges, but and my father also was not perfect. No, he had so many faults and everything, just like any other regular family. But I always choose kasi how I interpret the events in my life. Eh.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling ko nga I have this tendency to like delete empty trash, those that are parang did not serve me well, and
Mm-hmm.
then focus on those that are serving me well. So it's really embracing the power of choosing how to interpret events in your life. Kasi that's the power that we have eh. Diba?
Yes.
We cannot naman, we cannot control the events of this life and all. But we have the power to choose how to interpret events as they happen in our lives. And for me, I make it work for me kasi dalawa lang naman yan, di ba? Make it work or make it not work. You
Yeah.
choose, diba? It's always choosing.
Yeah.
Yun. Yun,
Yeah. And
choosing.
I forgot who said it, pero parang someone said na as humans we are naturally meaning making machines. No? So, to your point na interpret, it's really in how you choose to interpret things,
Yeah.
and events and words. No? So thank you for sharing that.
Inisip ko nga, pagiging naive ba yun or being too optimistic? Pero hindi kasi it's a power that is available to everyone. So
Mm-mm.
why not use it? Diba? Why
Yeah.
not use it and make it work to your advantage and see the results? So nakakatuwa eh, diba? So yun.
Yeah.
Yun.
And to your point again, no, parang me and Eric we're talking about this in with the interview last week, not how some people would say that wala akong choice eh, in whatever what happens to them. But number one, it's really as we know, diba, every moment is a moment of choice because you can choose how you would interpret what's happening around you and how you would choose to move forward.
Yeah. The
Thank you for
lens, the lens to wear, diba? Always the lens to wear eh. Yun.
Yeah. So we're recording this particular podcast in the time of the lockdown, time of coronavirus, and as we know, sometimes makita sa social media, there would be people who are not basically not feeling well about everything that's happening and fear and anxiety. There are also people who are continuing to to be productive in this period. um for you, which one are you in currently?
Siyempre ano ako, learning and growth phase ako kasi ano yan, 'di ba? At first, nung una, especially when I was doing like the grocery because of the quarantine and everything. So it's part of being responsible, no? So I was prepared not to go out for a month. So we were preparing everything. At some point, I actually felt like a character in a Holocaust movie. Yung parang gano'n.
Yes,
Oh my
I
God,
know what you mean.
this is so dramatic, 'di ba? So parang for a few seconds, parang medyo hindi ako na-ground. And then I said, okay, let's not overthink this. Let's be responsible one day at a time lang. So, a few days, parang observe lang, feel mo lang, di ba? Kasi face yun eh. Parang hindi naman pwedeng shift ka agad, di ba? So, I was
Yes.
observing, I was seeing how things will unfold. Pero after a while, I gained some sense of normalcy kasi nagkaroon ako ng routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me helped a lot. No? Ganun pala yun, to have some routine. No matter how insignificant it may seem, no, and then finding meaning in those things, in those activities. So simple things like pagkagising ko, anong gagawin ko, yung tipong, okay, meron ako tipong, sige, mag-stretching muna tayo, kain muna tayo ng fruit, and then after that, basa konti, check email. Yung meron na akong pattern pag 1 o'clock meditation, da-da-da-da. So, in a way, well, being an introvert, in a way, this ECQ is working um, quite well for me kasi all of a sudden I have the time and the space to just be.
Mm-mm.
No? Kasi dati doing, naghabol ng deadline, da-da-da. So ngayon, medyo nagkaroon ako ng space at time to just be at parang nakakahinga ako. So yun. And I know it is not the same for everyone, no? Kasi iba-iba and all experiences and feelings, they're all valid.
Yes.
They're all valid. For me, so sabi nga, parang I read somewhere where on the same boat but experiencing different storm, parang ganun, something like
Yeah.
that. Iba-iba tayong experience. So ako ngayon, medyo being phase, parang just really learning what I can, taking it one day at a time. There will, of course, be challenges as a business owner. I have people to pay, suppliers to pay,
Yes.
da-da-da-da. I mean, it's part of fiscal responsibility. Pero, ako, what my strategy is, handle natin yan and know na mahahandle yan kahit anong mangyari because, this is a global thing, di ba? I'm not
Yeah.
doing naman alone. We're all experiencing all of this. So, ma-handle yan. So, handle ko na siya. So, it's part of being responsible. Check, check, check. Okay, what else can we do? Strategy. And then after that, pag na-handle ko na siya, okay, pwede na tayong huminga. So,
Right.
ganun. Medyo balance siya. Ayun. But I do a lot of reading, music, ganyan. Importante. Connecting with friends and loved ones. Yan, sobrang importante. And
Nice.
this phase in our lives is very unpleasant for many.
Mm-mm.
Pero may mga opportunities din siya to really see na may higher purpose din siya. I don't know if it makes sense
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
some, but everything has a higher purpose, and
Yes.
it's not about being religious, but diba, we're so much more naman than just physical bodies, and diba, than this, you get what I mean. So there's so much more. So ako, I choose to, as the theme of our
Oo nga.
coaching, diba, to really rise above this and see the higher purpose.
Yeah.
But also, kailangan din, ako, I always talk about balance, no? Parang ano yan, parang puno yan eh. Parang you reach for the sky, diba, huge branches extending all the way to the sky. But it is also very important for the roots to be deeply grounded on
Yes.
earth, diba? And for me, that's the best balance, no? So connect to God, pero be responsible and handle your shit, kumbaga.
Mm.
Handle mo yung mga stuff mo dito sa earth, diba? So, and for
Mm.
me, that's the best way to approach it. That's what's working for me now.
Nice. Actually, yun yung what was going to be my follow-up na parang what advice would you probably want to give, at least in your opinion, to those na yun, being in fear, being anxious? You kind of touched on it na, but is there anything you would like to add, no, in terms of an advice for people who are not particularly feeling comfortable with the situation we're in now?
Number one, first to start with acceptance. Diba? It is what it is.
Yes.
And when we accept, it doesn't mean we're not going to do anything about it, but we come from that space where there is no resistance. And when there is no resistance, there is significantly less suffering. That's my experience. No? It's really come from a place of acceptance. And then after that, parang scan, parang what needs to be done, coming from responsibility, what needs to be done, diba? Kasi we have responsibilities as daughter, wife, child, diba? Yung lahat ng mga labels natin, and really
Yes.
handle all of those. And then after that, for ako, always, no, what am I learning here? What is this event? What is today teaching me? And that frees me and super gives me this liberation kasi palaging walang mali. Walang mali.
Yes.
Palaging lahat may natututunan. And then after that, it's not enough naman na very inward looking kasi hindi naman tayo pinanganak in this world to be, diba, ito lang, diba, internal affairs lang. So the next step is knowing what I know now, how can I serve my community? And it doesn't have to be lofty, it can even be just your friend, your neighbor, diba? Parang because it's never about just us, eh. We're all connected. So for me, always yan, parang knowing what we know now, what can we do to serve? And that, I'm 47 years old, and yet my heart feels like I'm 27. So, and at this point in my life, talaga ano ako, Julian, parang there has to be some purpose in my life other than just success. Kasi nung bata-bata ako, parang I was so gung-ho on title, on power, influence. As in, ina-agenda ko talaga yan. Very deliberate. I do things because I was results-oriented. Na kailangan ganito, kailangan ito, and it would always work. But at some point, I realized it is not enough. Na it has to be something bigger than me. So now, I realized, life purpose na. So it's 2020, and a few years back, I realized that really my purpose, cheesy as it may sound, is that it is love. No? Ultimately, it is love that brought me here, diba?
Yeah.
So it's love that I am also giving back to my community in my own imperfect way, no? Whichever way I can, every little day. So yon, acceptance, diba? And then be responsible, diba? And then ask yourself, what is the situation teaching me? Because there's so much to learn. And then after that, how can I use these learnings to serve my community and perhaps even the world? There.
Yay. Thank you. So, thank you for everything that you've shared now, and your your points on everything. But just to end on one last note, I have one last question. And it's piggybacking off what you just said then about purpose. Now, the as I mentioned, the intention for this podcast really is to help people dream bigger. And for a lot of people, that idea of dreaming bigger also involves finding their purpose. No?
Mhm.
Do you have any advice for people who are in that journey of finding their purpose, really being able to see themselves bigger or dream bigger, but just parang nahihirapan to get that clarity and everything? Do you have any advice for us basically who are
Yeah.
in that space?
Um, there's so much to share, but for me, the most important would be to know that we all have a purpose. To begin with, everyone has a purpose. Everyone, as in with no exception.
Yeah.
And to check which saan ka nag-excel, where are you excelling, where are you most joyful at, and then focus on that. Kasi it was not placed there. Wala lang. It has its own reason for being, no? If you're excited about something, there's a reason why the universe gave you that sense of excitement over that, diba, over that subject or topic. And then try to see, okay, I'm excellent at this, I'm joyful at this. Can I make money from it?
Yeah.
Diba? Is this something that serves the world? Will people be willing to pay for me to do this kind of service, to give these kinds of ideas? Because it is not bad to make money.
Yes.
It's not a crime to be rich or to accumulate wealth. As a matter of fact, it's a divine right, diba? To live this life in abundance. So
Yes.
I mean, really do that and enjoy. And then after that, and then see how you can serve the community. For me, it's, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, di ba?
Yes.
Yung parang umpisa ka muna sa physiological needs, safety needs na, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then finally self-actualization. For me, it's important to go through each phase, as in to do it 100% so that you don't need to go back to it at certain points in your lives.
Mm-mm.
So yun, I mean, do it well, do it with with all your might, but also be kind to yourself when there are days na it's not always working based on how you envision it to be, and it's totally fine. Yan, very important pala, self-compassion. Kasi
Yes.
in my particular case, kasi I'm super alpha, very results-oriented, very committed. Self-compassion was a key for me. I think for some people, it's embracing their innate power. For me, I had no trouble having yung ano yan, na-embrace ko yan ng maaga because nga of things that happened in the past that made me realize na when I come from power, when I come from courage and fearlessness, uh, I can do so many things pala. So yung being of power and fearlessness, I've embraced that at a very young age. And I'm grateful because I've also benefited from that at a very young age. But at some point, it's not enough. I also needed to embrace compassion,
Yeah.
specifically to myself, diba? Kasi, alam mo na, ganyan talaga.
Yeah.
Self-compassion. And after that, it was easy na to be compassionate towards others.
Yes.
So, ganon. Yun. Did that answer your
Yes,
question?
it did. It did. Even for I was asking for the whole audience, but I was really asking for me, and I actually got
Yeah.
bits and pieces for it. So thank you, Gigi.
Mhm.
Um, Again, thank you for gracing us with your presence in this podcast. I'm very, very grateful that you said yes and shared your story and shared your thoughts then on all of these things. Now, if there's any listener, for example, who really resonated with you or maybe interested sa Rad Manila, and if anyone just wants to reach you, how can they reach you?
We have a Facebook page, Rad Manila, so they can just uh, send us messages. So we'll try to attend as soon as we can. I'm also on Facebook, kahit naka-private. It's Gigi
Mm.
Tibi, so but they can message me and ask me questions. But yun, my hope really for your listeners is that also trust in themselves, no? Walang mawawala. And
Yes.
there's so much to gain. It will not always work. Some days you succeed, some days you fail, and it's totally fine because it is in failure that you actually learn. If you
Yes.
don't fail, you will never learn. So do not be afraid to fail. Uh, failures are gifts, no? You can learn so much from them. What's important is not to judge yourself harshly because
Yes.
hashtag you failed, no? Parang no, but really learn from it and celebrate that, and then do it all over again, and with so much passion and compassion for yourself, and I guess joy. Yun nga pala, Julia, parang it's important to also choose to come from joy.
Yes. For
Di ba?
sure.
Yun, joy one day at a time. Uh, and meanwhile, not to be hard on yourselves. I mean, like you, Julian, you're so young. And just embrace life,
Mm.
but one day at a time. And each
Yes.
day brings so much lessons and so much learnings. Yun. And just trust yourself. I think you will reach that point also where you can really trust yourself, like listen to that inner guidance, to the inner teacher. Yun.
Yes.
Ganun.
Yeah.
Yan.
Thank you for everything, buddy. Thank you for everything. Uh,
Welcome.
so I
Happy
hope
to
to
serve.
yeah. So I hope to see you soon after everything. And
Oo nga,
all right,
diba? And
all
to
right.
celebrate life and hug with no fear.
Yes,
Diba?
yes, of course. All right. So thank you everyone for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'd like to thank Gigi for joining us in this episode. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Gigi.
Thank
I'll see you
you.
next time. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks.